Well, so far so good. An awful lot of work has been carried out in the last 3 years, but an awful lot more work is still planned for the remaining 2 years. Got a good team working with me. I think Tynwald members on the whole are working together well for the greater good of the people of the island. Maybe still good scrutiny from them, but maybe less confrontation and more trying to work together to see what can be done for the betterment of the island. So we've set up the programme for government, which is something that hadn't been done in its form before, where you set out what you're going to do, you put KPIs, key performance indicators, so you can measure what is success, what's failure. You do delivery dates, and then something most unusual, you put the name of a politician who takes responsibility for ensuring that that policy area that they're responsible for is delivered on that time. And then you have your traffic light system of red, amber and green on how it's going. We monitor it in Council of Ministers every week. We have feedback on how is each department getting on with its own responsibilities. So you can clearly see what this administration proposes to do, when it's going to happen. Yes, there's some slippage, but I think we're 70-80% of everything has been delivered on time or ahead of time. Well, I don't believe in making false promises. I think if you're going to do it, you've got to do it from a factual point of view. You've got to do your research. You've got to, there are some that were trying to push us to do it for 2035. And I said, look, where's the evidence? Where are your indicators showing that we can do it by? In 15 years, for example, you would have to have done away with every central heating boiler that was gas or oil. All cars, vehicles would have to have been electric or hydrogen, and all your houses would have had to be carbon neutral. 44,000 houses with an average cost of 23,000 to convert into a carbon neutral. That's insulation, windows, boilers, etc. That's over £1 billion just for the houses alone. So what you do is you set up a proper committee with a respected expert who can then come up with a report and show you how it can be done and how soon you can do it. So evidence-based, I think that's really important. Whatever this administration does, we go on proper evidence rather than having small groups pressurising us into doing things that there's no evidence to back up. So you've got to get things right first of all. So we are committed to doing the health review. We're committed to climate change, reduction in our carbon footprint, but we've got to do it responsibly and with evidence that we get it right. Now, if you analyse our colleagues in the other Crown dependencies, they've been seeing a reduction in growth. We've been seeing an increase in growth, but we can't be complacent. We don't know how Brexit is going to go, whether it's a crash out or whether it'll be out with a deal, or you could have a general election that stops it. That's a bit of an outside chance, but it's still there in the background. And I say time and time again, we can't direct the wind on the Isle of Man, but we can trim our sails accordingly, and we've positioned ourselves as much as we can to whatever comes our way. If it's an iceberg, we can dodge it. If it's an opportunity, we can seize it. I think our motto was, whatever way you throw me, I will stand. And that's how this island really does work. We're pretty agile, nimble, and we will do our best to ensure that the Isle of Man comes out of whatever Brexit may be to the best of our abilities. Well, I've always been about intergenerational fairness. I think it's really important that we hand over a well-run government to the next generation, that we don't saddle the next generation, our children and our grandchildren, with debt. And I personally it was my motions in 2012 and 2014 that tackled public sector pension debt. It was a black hole. No one wanted to discuss it because it was a minefield. It was very unpopular. But if we hadn't have sorted that out, then our children would have been paying horrendous taxes for 40, 50 years. As it is, we're still going to have to be paying. The fund runs out in 21-22, but with the surplus we're building up in the economy, that will be affordable now, because we've asked the staff to pay more for a 6% accrual rate less. But that means that our children will have a much brighter future as a result of taking that painful action. It's better for the people who are in receipt of a pension too, because they know there's a greater chance they're going to get that money. In the local issues of the constituency, in my first term, I organised for the resurfacing of the Heritage Trail, the old railway track from Braddon through to Crosby, to be done. This time I've managed to work with the DOI minister to get from Crosby all the way to Peel done, and it is really a fantastic facility. So people on horses, cycles, walking their dog, just walking themselves, people with disabled members of their family can now use that track. That's a real fantastic facility, and I want to see that rolled out across the island. So I would love in the future if we could get from, say, from Peel to Ramsey done, so people can either cycle into work or just get out and enjoy the countryside, appreciate what a special island that we have here. So these have been key issues for me. Now, as a result of growing the economy, we've been able to put £3 million worth into the police force extra that we just didn't have before. And you might say, well, what's that got to do with your constituency? But the constituency of Middle, all traffic goes through it to get into Douglas, and that's the number one concern of residents in the area, is the speed and volume of traffic going through the area, and ensuring that you've able to have more police out in their vehicles doing the hairdryer, the speed gun traps to slow people down, to make the constituency safer for the residents walking about, going out with their children, etc. That will enable more regulation on people's speed, to make the constituency safer for people.